Okay, so here's the dazzling dozen things to look for, the 12 things you need to look for. He needs to show responsibility in working diligently to provide for himself. 2 Thessalonians 3:10. The one who is unwilling to work shall not eat. Find a man who's willing to work diligently and be responsible and provide for himself and hopefully you. Okay, second point. He should be a man who demonstrates basic knowledge of God's word and willingly talks about God's word with you. Right? He should actually know God's word and be willing to talk about it. Ephesians 5 says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church. I mean, if his Bible is dusty, if you can write your name in it, this is not a good sign, because many people will say, I'm a Christian. Many people will even go to church, but never crack open a Bible and aren't serious about following God. If his Bible is dusty, that is a sign that he's not really serious about following Christ. Look for a guy who behaves in ways that shows he cherishes you, such as speaking lovingly and doing kind things for you. I think that's important. Ephesians 5:28-29. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it, right? You should find a man who demonstrates self-control in his life, or at least shows evidence of working diligently to free himself from any harmful or sinful addictions. Because we're not expecting perfection here, right? But is he showing signs that he's willing to work on areas where he's maybe lacked self-control in the past? Maybe he has a pornography addiction. Many men do, and we're not expecting perfection here, but is he willing to work on this? Is he showing evidence that he is working on this? The next one, you should find a man who strives to be honest with you and tell you the truth. Colossians 3:9, do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices. And any of these, if he lies to you while you're dating, huge red flag. Do you think he's going to stop lying when you get married? Another thing you're looking for is that he avoids spending time alone with other women or viewing porn. Because again, if he's dating you, should he be spending time alone with other women? Does anyone think that's a good idea? Raise your hand. Yeah, not a good idea if he's spending time alone with other women or viewing pornography. Ephesians 5:3 says, among you there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality. Seventh point. Does he treat you with honor? He should treat you with honor and does not press you into being sexually active before marriage. 1 Corinthians 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. By the way, are you pressuring him to have sex before marriage? Because women sometimes have this thing about like, I'm going to reel him in and I'll use my body to reel him in to catch this man. So sometimes it's the women that need to back off and treat him with honor and not be teasing him, luring him sexually before marriage. You can do it after marriage all you want. Eighth point, is he willing to put you before his, what do you think I'm going to say here?
Motorcycle.
Mother.
Oh, motorcycle, that's a good one, but I was thinking of mother. Is he willing to put you before his mother, or the other M word, motorcycle, right? Ephesians 5:31, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. I know this one lovely woman who got married, 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not sure how it's going for her now, but prior to their wedding, to her husband, he talked to his mother every single day on the phone for at least a half an hour.
Yikes.
Wow, that's very attached to mommy. Very attached to mommy. Be careful about that. I mean, that's a pretty enmeshed relationship he would have with his mom. And you want to be first. You should be first. He's supposed to leave his mommy and cleave to you. Ninth point. You look for a man who controls what comes out of his mouth, avoiding crude jokes and foul language. Ephesians 5:4. Nor should there be any obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking which are out of place. And I know in today's culture, it's like, oh, everyone uses coarse language. It's a funny joke. But is this really honoring to God? Is this really the kind of person you want to have raising your children with you? I mean, think about some of those things. 10th point, you want a man who shows a willingness to put your interests ahead of his from time to time. From time to time. Philippians 2, do nothing out of selfish ambition or in vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. And by the way, he's going to be on his best behavior, his very best behavior while he's dating you. So if he's not really putting your interests ever ahead of his own, if you're always kind of taking a back seat to his interests, it's not going to get better when you get married. So much of the time women are like, I'll change him once I get the ring and the wedding and then I'll work on him. Yeah, he's on his best behavior when you're dating. The 11th point, you look for a man who handles anger in healthy ways. Handles his anger in healthy ways and is not verbally or physically abusive toward anyone. Proverbs 22:24, do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered. We're all going to have anger. I mean, I don't know how you can drive the guide without having a little anger going on, or do the road construction right now. Oh, just hardly stand it sometimes. Okay. Anyway, got a little worked up the other day as I waited for the, okay, anyway. So we're all going to have anger apparently sometimes, but how do you handle that anger? Does he get, verbally abusive? Does he take it out on whoever is in his path? Something to look at. And the 12th point, you want a man who shows more love for God than for the pursuit of money. More love for God than for the pursuit of money. Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Money is not the most important thing in the world. The pursuit of money is not the most important thing in the world. And in addition to these godly character qualities, make sure you guys are compatible. Because you can have all this stuff, but if you are totally not compatible, it's not really going to work very well. I mean, if you love to live in the bustling city and go to all the, live theater, and he is a country boy who wants to raise pigs and chickens and not be around anybody, I mean, it's just not going to work very well. So think about, are we really compatible? Do we have similar tastes and expectations for life? How many children do you agree on having children? What kind of house? What kind of family do you want? All these things you need to talk about, because it really does make a big difference. I wanted to give you a brief list of who not to date, because these are big red flags. Don't date a guy who hits you or even pushes you in an aggressive manner. You need to get out of there now. Just now. I know you're in love with him. Just leave him right now. If you're dating someone who's already showing some aggression, leave now. Don't date a guy who uses obscenities or uses degrading names when talking to you. If he's using obscenities or using degrading names when talking to you, get out of there now. He doesn't respect you in the slightest. He's supposed to cherish you. Do not put up with that. Do not put up with that for a second. Don't date a guy who spends time alone with other women when he's supposed to be dating you. Don't date a guy who indulges in looking at pornography or scantily clad women and doesn't think that it's a problem, doesn't think that it's wrong. Not okay. Don't date a guy who refuses to work hard to take care of his own responsibilities. Don't date a guy who lets his parents take care of him while he spends a lot of time playing, right? Don't date a guy who lets his parents take care of him. I mean, unless he's 17, then you probably shouldn't be dating him anyway, because I don't think any of you are like teenagers. Don't date a guy who uses illegal drugs or drinks alcohol excessively. Don't date a guy who spends or gambles money in a way that appears reckless. I mean, it's one thing to drop $5, in a casino thing, and whatever. I'm not, saying anything about gambling. But if he's recklessly going through money, that is going to probably cause some major problems for you guys when you get married. Don't date a guy who speaks harshly to you and points out your faults. If he's busy just pointing out fault after fault until you're just feeling like you're nothing, not good. Don't date a guy who's, where am I at? Ignores your need for his love and attention. Don't date a guy who seems to put his mother before you. Don't date a guy who lies to you. And don't date a guy who wants to borrow money from you or put the engagement ring on the credit card, your credit card. Yeah.